I want to dig into one other component of this, Misty, from the Gaetz report. And it finds, this will take a second to go through and explain, but it's important, that many of his sexual encounters were brokered through a well-known website for what's called sugar dating. Now, sugar dating, if you're not familiar, typically you have arrangements where like older women are offering financial support to, or older men to younger women. Financial support's usually involved in the relationship. And here's what the report says. Joel Greenberg, former Florida official associate of Matt Gaetz, introduced him to women he met through a website that used to be called Seeking Arrangements, okay? And at the time, that site said it matched sugar daddies with what they said were attractive sugar babies, providing, quote, the finer things in life. That's what the website said. Also, it advertised itself as a lucrative resource for young girls to get financial support for their student debt, to pay it off. One marketing campaign actually called it Sugar Baby University. In 2021, Greenberg was sentenced to jail time, 11 years in prison on charges of sex trafficking a minor, began cooperating with the Justice Department's investigation of Gaetz at the time. The committee cited payments Gaetz had made to 12 women, as well as to a woman who later became his girlfriend at age 21. Gaetz, though, denies, as Joe Khalil reported a moment ago, ever making the payments. The website we were talking about actually rebranded after Greenberg was indicted. They dropped the arrangement from the name. Now it's just known as Seeking. And the founder of that company behind the website, Brandon Wade, has said over and over again that the site bans users from paying for sex. But all this raises a number of questions. The NewsNation Now senior producer Natalie Johnson has actually done extensive reporting and research on this topic of sugar dating, including her graduate thesis at Columbia University. And Natalie joins us now on set. Now, you spent like a year, right?
Yeah.
Looking into this topic, this sugar dating, and how big a thing it was. What stood out after spending all of that time researching it about, that maybe people wouldn't know?
Well, you're right. I spent a year interviewing women who were so-called sugar babies in these relationships.
Right.
And what stood out was just how lucrative these relationships were. We're talking about like thousands of dollars a month. In the form of gifts, like Matt Gaetz mentioned and Joe Khalil just mentioned, or in the form of just straight up cash that people used for, various things, like to pay off student loans.
But not for, there was no direct, and the website wouldn't say, oh, you're coming to have like a sexual relationship with someone.
No.
Companionship or something like that.
Right,
So that's how they got sort of around it. I was intrigued by the student loan part, that they actually marketed towards that, because they know college age women, that's a lot of money that they could have a lot of debt.
Right, yeah. Before their rebrand, there was a marketing campaign, as you mentioned, specifically targeting college-age women. If you signed up for the site and you were in college, you had a free membership to meet, older, mostly men who were financially successful, who could help you out. And it was specifically marketed as a way to tackle the student debt crisis.
In cities, in big cities especially?
Right, yeah, in major cities like LA, New York.
Because the cost of living is high.
Because the cost of living is high, because the cost of education is very high, and you might not have an extra income. Maybe you don't have time for a job on campus. These are really lucrative relationships, and
Wow. But you interviewed a lot of people for this.
I did, yeah.
It's prevalent. This is a prevalent practice.
Right, yeah, and websites like Seeking Arrangements have a usership of about 40 million people.
Really? Even now, like, it's Seeking instead of Seeking Arrangements. Misty Maris is listening in on this. I'm just curious, Misty, so this idea, sugar dating, as I was saying to Natalie, they don't say you're doing this for sex, so that makes it legal? I mean, what's the legal issues that are raised here, if any?
Yeah. Great research, Natalie. Interesting to hear from all of those individuals. But Connell, really, that's the case. It falls into what would be a legal gray area, because really the website itself says you cannot engage in these illegal practices. It's really just a means to connect individuals who want to meet and engage in whatever type of consensual relationship they want to. The issue, and where it's faced significant criticism, is that it can target a vulnerable population. And from that, people can, in fact, be exploited. However, any action taken relates to that individual who engages in that exploitation, as opposed to the website itself from a legal perspective. So it's really in a little bit of the oblivion with respect to its legalities. So it can operate as it has been.
We thought with this story in the news, though, it was definitely worth bringing to light. Thank you, Misty, and great work, Natalie. Thank you. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.